fastest of the stars we roam. Obsidian fleet, our simming home.
Alright, I'm Chris and welcome to another episode of Spotlight, where I rope some poor guest into discussing posts that have been nominated by you guys or the author of the Obsidian Fleet community. And this week we've got a very special guest. She's the XO on the Mercutio, spends her work days rescuing picnic baskets from hungry bears. It's Jill! Hey!
Hello.
Alright, Jill.
How are you?
I'm good. First of all, thanks for coming on.
Yeah.
It's not many people are prepared to nominate a post and be on camera talking about it as well.
I feel like I'm getting used to it, having done a Fleetcast with Becca and Andy a few months back, and getting in on the Nerdy Up North fundraiser thing.
Yeah, you're on the charity stream.
Yeah. And it's pretty fun. So yeah, I was kind of like, how can I submit that I can do this?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I appreciate you nominating your own post. It was previously unpublished before you published it for this, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. There wasn't really a spot to put it. It wasn't part of the main plot, any main plot lines, or even like personal plot lines on the side for the characters. It's actually a future post, like way in the future, where my character and her husband are retired, older age. They're back on Earth, on the ranch, and so it was just like a fun, like in my head thing. And I shared it with the guy that plays her husband, and that was about all it went, as far as it went at the time. Yeah. And so it's been, but I had it stored away, and so when you were asking for stuff, I was like, I couldn't really think of anything I'd done that was standalone. Mm-hmm. A lot of things either tie in the plot, or there's like a series of things happening in the personal lives, and so like one post would be kind of like, felt like it would be taking it out of context.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, the stuff that I have been getting, it doesn't necessarily have to be a solo post. I mean, they both have been, but they don't have to be, and they don't have to have a start, middle, and end to the post. You can just go to any point, because if I'm talking to the author of that post, I can ask them to expand on it as well, or give us like a rough thing, or might encourage people to go and actually read the post before and after. So
that's true. That would break my brain though. Like, I think for myself, I was like, it needs to be contained.
Nah, that's fine. That's fair enough. But I have got a couple of questions before we get into the post. What actually got you into writing?
Long time ago, when I was in college.
It was last year, wasn't it?
Shut up. No, this was mid to late 90s. Mm-hmm. I think chat rooms were just a thing that were starting, because like the whole internet idea was fairly new. And I was on some chat rooms that were, I think, Linux based at the time. And there was one that was, it was called Enterprise. And so I was like, oh, Star Trek, I'll join this group. And eventually made a bunch of friends there, and we just get on and chat and everything. But every once in a while, a little bit of role playing would break out. And It's been so long ago, I don't know how it happened, but like I was like, this is a lot of fun. And so when I was out of college, and I was always accessing it with my campus email. And so I didn't have access to that anymore, and went looking for a place where I could do something similar. And I found a different fleet it was Starfleet Legacy Alliance was what I found, and I joined that, and that's actually when I created this character. And
Right.
so that was about end of '01 was when I first joined the Mercutio.
Yeah.
And there's a 4 years where I took a break because I had just gotten married, moved farther away from work, so late nights were a little bit more daunting. I was like, I don't think I'm gonna be able to keep this up. So
Yeah.
we killed my character off, and then I decided I wanted to come back 4 years later. So we made it like soap opera style, where she came back from the dead.
It's like, Dios mío, she's returned.
Yeah. And and we've been good at torturing our characters ever since.
Right. I totally get the taking a break. I mean, I've got a 4-year-old full-time job, and I do stuff like this. I don't think I could throw another thing into the mix.
Right.
Even if it is fun, it is like there's still that element of I've got loads of boring stuff to do, like work and being a parent.
Yeah, it is. It's just one more. Yeah, you're right. Even if it's fun, it's still something.
Yeah. It takes away a bit like, oh yeah, I'm having fun doing this role play and writing these posts, but like, me house is a mess and I don't know what my kid's face looks like and that.
Why are you gonna call me out like that?
Oh man, I'll edit this out. Sorry. But yeah, what made you choose Obsidian Fleet?
So the fleet that we were originally affiliated with broke up. That I don't even remember everything anymore, but suddenly we were one of 2 ships that were still playing, and there wasn't the structure that there had been. The structure that we see in Obsidian Fleet, and so both of the 2 sims were pretty much operating independently. And the other one still does, actually. So that's kind of good for them. But we were realizing that we were kind of running low. We didn't have a lot of players, and we didn't have a way to recruit. And at one point in my head, and I think maybe in the captain's head too, we weren't sure if this was it, if this was the end. And so we actually, the 2 of us started doing future logs with our characters. And which was a lot of fun, but it was kind of like our way of how we could go on if the sim itself ran out of steam. And I think that's when somewhere in there is when I wrote this post, because it was like, well, if we go 10 years down the road, let's go farther.
Yeah.
But so we got in touch with someone who used to be on the sim back when I joined, and he put us on to Obsidian Fleet.
Nice.
Ironically, he's no longer with Obsidian Fleet. I think there was a rough breakup with that.
Nice.
But he brought me over here. I started by joining a different ship and to see how it was, to kind of scope things out before I brought us over. And that was I joined the Archimedes when it was around, and that was fun. The big change was that we've always been a live sim, and so one night a week we get together, and now on Discord, but it started in AIM and moved into IRC. And so we've always done that. We meet for an hour. At one point, I think it was an hour and a half, but we do our acting out and everything. And then during the week, people can submit poster logs that kind of supplement what's going on in the background or in their head, or bringing up a final post that kind of wraps everything up. And so when we joined Obsidian Fleet, they didn't have that. So we started in on the Nova style, or the play-by-post, that a lot of the Sims right now work with. and
Yeah.
that was, pardon me, that worked okay. Especially at first, it was fine, but COVID hit, and I think a lot of stuff slacked off, especially for me. COVID like hit um, my inspiration pretty hard, and I had a hard time keeping up and keeping in with posts that I was doing with people, and so. But we talked with the heads up and at Obsidian Fleet and realized that we really kind of just thought we did better as a live sim. So we tried that, went back to that, and that's what we're back to doing. And Discord offers a pretty good place to be able to do that.
Yeah, it must be like a deeper sense of community if you do it as a live post as well, because it's like kind of like getting together with your mates, like playing a D&D session, or like just being social as well for however long you do it.
In fact, I would describe it to people in the past when I was telling about what I did, and it was like it's like D&D, but there's no dice rolling. You're just coming up with it off the cuff. There's a bit of a honor system that you're staying true to your character and no like god modding type stuff.
Yeah.
But we not like constrained by what the dice allows.
Yeah. Oh, nice. Actually, I was gonna ask about the background of the Merc or Mercutio, but you've already went into it there. And just a reminder to join the Discord, because quite often GMs will post whether they have any open positions. I mean, I know I mentioned to you before, and you said you think there is a few, but GMs often post from different games where they're like, oh, we're looking for a science officer, we need engineers, we want whatever. Just so you can have a look around, see what's available. And
yeah,
also,
I think we're.
Sorry.
Right now, I think we've got. We could take anyone in any department, if you will, but we don't have a chief medical officer at the moment.
Right. You kind of need them as well.
I've got a character that can be a doctor, but we don't have a chief medical officer. It's an NPC, and I've already got the XO. I don't need to have chief medical officer as well.
I was going to say, is it Jill the barber surgeon or something?
No, actually. All right, so a little bit more background. My character and her husband, that started way back close to after we both joined the sim.
Yeah.
And they got together, and that's been a whole progressing thing. But they adopted somebody on the ship whose parents were killed off in some mission, and so he's the doctor now. So it's like once as they were coming, I was actually the XO first, and then I took my sabbatical, if you will, and so Henry stepped up into XO position, and then I came back, and I wasn't going to take that back. But a few years after that, unfortunately, our captain passed in real life. She passed away, and so we did decide to keep going, and he took over captain position, and I slipped into XO. And it's always been in the back of my mind, like, you'd never see a married couple in the top 2 spots, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like, it's a little bit suspending disbelief there, but we try to make it work. Like, they're already under the gun because of this. Like, to have their son as a CMO as well, it's just not gonna happen.
It's all right. This was it. What is it? Merc the netball ship.
Yeah. We don't need to be that.
But yeah, true. And actually, I've just realised as well. This is the first 2-part post the first post set in the future and the first one set on Earth that I've done. I know we're only on the 3rd episode, but
I didn't even think about that, but yes, I think you're right.
But speaking of the post, I'll just go through a quick, brief synopsis of it that I've sprinkled with fancy words to make it sound smarter. Right. So, in this poignant story, Edra is deeply mourning the loss of her husband, Henry, who has passed away unexpectedly while surveying their property. After a fruitless search, she finds his body and is overcome with grief. Struggling to come to terms with his permanent absence as time passes, Edra finds solace in continuing the routines they once shared, including daily horseback rides with Henry's horse, Zeus, now left without a rider. The bond between Edra and Zeus grows as she takes him on rides, though both are grieving the loss of their partner. Eventually, Edra revisits the field where she found Henry, facing the painful memories, but ultimately finds comfort in a quiet moment by his grave, realizing that while life has changed, the love and memories they shared will forever remain. So, that's what I've got. I've just messed up my notes there. From that post, it is about grief, it's about loss, it's about coping with that. So it's very hard to find a humorous, stupid game to play in between that. So
Okay, you're fine.
So I've went in a completely different direction and made a game called, where is it? Could Edra ender this? So I'm going to show you 3 creatures from the Trek universe, and I want to know whether you think Edra could chin them. By chin them, I mean beat them up.
Okay.
Right. So I'll chuck the first slide up straight away. Alpha 177K9. How do you think Edra would do against that?
That's a good question. I will say Edra is Bajoran, so she's, her build is going to be very similar to a human female. I think the bigger question is, before she was XO, she was a doctor, so I think there'd be some. I think she'd have some issues with killing anything, but like, could she take it? I'm sure she could.
I could rephrase it. Could she knock them out?
Okay. Yes. I mean, I guess it's awful tiny.
yeah. You could easily toe punt that in the face. It'll be fine. Slide 2. Assault vampire.
Oh my gosh.
These are quite scary, to be fair, aren't they? Look at his little face.
It's the suction cup mouth, like a.
Mm-hmm.
It reminds me of the flatworm monster from X-Files.
Oh yes, it does. It's got really boring eyes as well.
Yeah. No, you know what? I'm gonna say she could take them because she's been through some stuff throughout her life, and she's pretty tough.
Ain't afraid of no assault vampire, and I've left the most dangerous creature till last. I'll understand if you want us to take the slide off straight away because it is scary, but slide 3 is a tribble.
That might be the most difficult.
It's just a singular one.
Oh, that's true. Well, for now.
For now.
I don't know. Where's the airway to cut off?
Sorry?
Where do you cut off its airway? Like, how do you?
I don't know.
Oh, I know, right? That might actually be.
You just squash it or something? I don't know.
It's like one of those stress balls. Squeeze your.
Oh, that's horrible.
Awful.
I'll say yes. Because if she could take on Assault Vampire and the K9. I think she could probably take on a single triple. But that was our game, and we've just proved that Edra is proper hard. Hey! Right. I do have some questions about the post as well. If you want to read it, by the way, yourself, there is a link in the description, so you can leave your thoughts in the comments as well. Right. So, the language and terminology used in the search for Henry, like the alarm signals over comms, the detailed search party protocols, etc., you kind of tell you've had experience in those type of situations, either in the past or with your job. Do you think your real life experiences add to your writing?
I do think real life experience definitely adds, because you can put a level of detail in there that you wouldn't otherwise know.
Yeah.
That being, I don't have search and rescue background.
Oh, do you not? I just assumed you did.
No. I mean, it could be that as a park ranger, we're asked to come in and help with some kind of search. And I think there was an incident a few years ago where some of the rangers that were on duty did, but I was not on duty on that day. And it's usually handled by our park police unit,
right?
Because we do have theirs separate from us. And so I don't have that kind of a background. So when I read your notes beforehand, I was like, well, that's a really nice compliment. Thank you.
Well, you sound like you know what you're talking about. And if it was me, I would have been like, yeah, I found 12 orphans last week. Rescued them all.
Carried them all back in my hand.
It was all me.
And I do take, like, right now I'm working on a post where there's an assassination attempt.
Right.
And, like, I did draw from watching, I think it's Day of the Jackal or Year of the Jackal with Eddie Redmayne.
Right.
I don't know if you've heard that. We were watching that, and like I definitely pulled from some of the scenes from there for this log, and it's like some things that seemed like they were pretty accurate, not just like, I know that TV is not the best reference, but like this stuff looks pretty legit. So I did pull, so it's not just my job or things that I've done that I'm pulling from. But I do try to, I do keep in mind that some sources are more reliable than others.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm so glad you mentioned a series or a film instead of saying my other assassination attempts. Which obviously I'll not incriminate you on here, in case anyone's watching. But yeah, I totally get that. I mean, when we talked to Phoebe last week about the scientific terms as well, it does help to have good sources and a good understanding of the subject, I would say, or enough to where you can sprinkle a little bit of truth in and then blag the rest of it. Definitely.
I keep Memory Alpha on close by.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot, especially like I said, I've played a doctor in my characters, and one of the pages I refer to most is the medications page. Because it's like, I know there's a whole list of things that they've referenced in all of the different series before, and it's like I can just find something there instead of making it up. Sometimes I do make words up, but a lot of times if I can find something or find a specific gadget that's been used, I wanna try to keep to that.
To be fair, I do that in real life. Not with Memory Alpha, but like in my work, if I can create new words and sound smart and it makes sense, that's a good day to me. So yeah. I get that. Yeah. What made you put this in 2 parts as well? I like the way that you had like the discovery of Henry, and then you stopped as if like to let the reader digest what had happened, and then you started straight away with the second post with a song which was "Bittersweet" by Zach Brown. Was that like an intentional thing?
For the two-parter thing, it's been a while since I've written this, so
Yeah.
I don't have full remembrance of it, but I think that the first part was all I had at first.
Right.
I think that was kind of like where it stopped in my head, and then like the more I thought about it, the more it was like it's unfinished, and so that's where I came up with the second part. And I've always loved horses. I've had the chance to work with them before, an odd job here and there. And I, as a youth, I read books. When I realized how much I like horses, I read books about how to deal with them, how to work with them, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so, being on a ranch, I figured that was a good way to go forward with the second half.
Yeah.
Of that. And I've always liked the movies where people have the ability to almost communicate with animals, or the animals appear to be communicating. Like there's a I like that kind of a bond, even if it's just something that we're making up. So that's where that part came from. As far as the song choice, for starting the second one, a lot of my posts, as throughout the whole time I've been playing, if I see that it goes along with the lyrics of a song, or if I hear a song at the time that I'm making up a post, and I realize how much the two mesh, I like having a soundtrack. And I've put lyrics at the top of a number of my posts before. And so I probably heard this sometime around the time that I was making this, and I was like, oh my gosh, this just fits perfectly.
Right.
And or it's also possible I heard that and had some of the inspiration for this from that song. Like I said, it's been a while, so I don't remember the exact timeline of it all. But Zach Brown has a lot of good songs, and there was a time where I was listening to a lot of their stuff, and so this was definitely, if I can include it, I will.
To be fair, I didn't actually listen to the song before this, but I thought the lyrics were an amazing touch. But I'm so glad that you've actually agreed to sing the song in full now. I'm joking.
Yeah. No, I mean, I sing, but I am not prepared.
Don't worry, I wouldn't make you do that. I was only joking. I know we talked about this just before, because we nattered for about an hour before I pressed the actual record button. But I've talked before about other people's methods of writing a solo post, and this is a very little dialogue post other than the exchange with Orpheus. How hard is it to write a post just using actions and observations, and maybe communicating with, I'm not saying Orpheus is an inanimate object, but you can't get any speech back from him?
Yeah, that part I don't have too much of a problem with. I feel like I've done that a lot through my writing. And like when I've got someone to go back and forth with, it's nice, but I've for a long time worked on what is not just what a person's saying, but how they're moving, and like the intent with which they're moving, or what they're thinking or feeling. And actually, I've also done some writing with Becca on a kind of place that's not Obsidian Fleet, and it's mostly not Trek related. And in those posts, each person was going back and forth with like at least 2 paragraphs if you could, and that's a lot of writing, even in a dialogue. 2 paragraphs, that's a lot. So I really use that to work on how I can describe more than just what my character is saying.
Yeah, yeah.
And although I will say this was written long before I was writing with Becca in that circumstance, but it's more than, it just takes realizing it's more than just the dialogue.
Yeah.
I've also read a lot in my growing up, and so some of my style I recognize when I'm doing certain things that like a favorite author does regularly.
Yeah.
And so I've picked up a lot from the books that I've read too.
Yeah, I was just pointing out as well that I think it's a amazing skill to have, to be able to tell a story without talking the reader through it, with through dialogue. But like, oh, I'm going to do this. You just describe doing it, or the way the character moves or does something, you kind of infers it. I just think it's really good.
Thank you.
It's all right. But yeah, my last observation was I really like the description of the stages of grief that she goes through, and then finally coming to terms with Henry's loss at the end by saying goodbye with Zeus. I thought it was a perfect ending to that post. When you were doing this, were you doing it live, or was this?
What do you mean?
Like what you were saying before, when you got together and you like once a week or whatever, and then you just made posts together and just wrote that way. Was this a part of that, or?
No, this was something I did on my own, and I might have, in conversation, I might have been like, well, what would happen if we got to that point where it was somebody was passing, and his response is that he couldn't go on without her.
Yeah.
There was no question about that. And so it was like, well, what would happen to her if he died? And so that's where a lot of that came from.
Yeah.
Also, I'd written this and stored it away, and then came back a while after, and it's kind of neat when you write and then you read it and you're like, huh, I can do that. Like, you don't realize what you're doing in the moment. And so, like, I came back, when I read it the second time, I was like, oh, I like what I did with the animals there. Like, her interaction with them.
Yeah.
It was, once I felt separated from it enough to be able to say, yeah, I got that right. And that's a good feeling.
Yeah.
I've had, I think another co-writer just recently wrote it when I posted it, I think. And, I think I got the emotional response I was going for from her too.
Yeah.
Which is nice to know that I can do that, because when you get affected by an author that can do that, it's like there's this kind of question of, I wonder if I could do that. And
be like, I've still got it. Yes.
But it's just like, it's in a certain way, it's like, is it just words or is it more than that? Because you wouldn't be able to evoke that with just words.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. Oh yeah, I forgot to ask as well. Is there a what was the reason why you had Henry pass like that, kind of like off screen?
You mean like instead of describing it?
Yeah, yeah.
I think because I kept it in her point of view.
Right, right.
And one of the things, there's been just a few times that I've strayed from letting letting another person write their own character. There's and then mostly if I do it, it's like just little bits. But there's that I can remember. There's only been once where I wrote his character for a good bit, and even then I was like, "Hey, look at this and see if you like it," because I don't want to do anything um, uh, without your say so. Because I do feel like every person's character is something that is theirs.
Yeah, definitely.
So that was part of why I did that. It was from her point of view, and when I went back and read it again, and it's like there is a moment at the beginning where she gets like a bit of a chill, and I know that when I wrote that, it was my like little bit of foreshadowing, or like something that like they've been together for a long time, so like that's how connected they are almost. So yeah, that's that.
Oh no, that's fine. I get that. When you were talking there, as soon as you said, "Well, it's from her perspective," I thought, "Oh, Chris, man, you're an idiot." It's obvious, isn't it? That might be why I didn't ask him before, but yeah. But I think that's it for me for questions about the post. I really enjoyed reading it, and thanks for nominating it.
Yeah, no problem. I'm glad that it was okay to nominate your own post.
Oh yeah, of course you can. To be fair, it's easier because I can get you on to talk about it as well. Nominate all your posts if you want.
Well, thanks for doing it, because this was an interesting way to look back at something I did a while ago.
Yeah. To be fair, it's like I don't think I would have been able to read this if you didn't nominate it as well. It's the same with many of the posters, unless the recent, it would be like, oh yeah, this is a good post, and Cam doing a positive post asking for posts about certain days that have been happening, like National Pancake Day, and stuff like that. Write posts related to like you've written. I wouldn't see it; wouldn't be on my radar. So thanks for nominating it and taking the time out to actually talk about it.
I want to go back. I want to go back and visit some of my posts for things that she's putting up, because usually when I see them, I'm at work or something where I really can't go back and find something. But she's been doing a lot of good topics.
Just go back and retroactively post them. Just be like, oh, that was for that day. It'll be fine. People will still read them. And it's good to just look back. And as you were saying before we started, because you said you dug up some of your first ever posts, and you were like, the difference between you now and you back then is night and day.
It really is.
Which is good in a way, because if you were exactly the same as when you first started out, there may have been something wrong. Everyone's got to learn. Everyone improves as well. But yeah, I think that's us. Remember to subscribe and send us more Obsidian Fleet nominations so I can read some more stories. You too, Jill. You nominate some more of your own.
Khitomer nominations, right?
Sorry?
Weren't we supposed to be sending in nominations for awards?
So I've got nominations for stories for a post for me to read. There's Khitomer coming up on March the 1st, which I'll get into, where Obsidian Fleet are doing a couple of panels. There's Pegasus Fleet, there's Shadow Fleet, and I can't remember off the top of my head, but there'll be a link at the end of this so you can check out yourself and in the description. And it's past the nominations for Obsidian Fleet Awards, and I think that's it. Becca did say that I've got to think of a sign off, and I've come up with an amazing one. So, love yous. Bye.
Okay, bye.
In the vastness of the